Captain Lee Ji-won stood on the bridge of her ship, the Taeguk Dawn. The stars looked peaceful through the big window, but Lee knew better. Space was never really peaceful. She had learned that lesson many years ago during the Mars Colony Wars. The ship moved slowly through the outer rim of human space. Lee's crew was on a routine patrol mission. They were looking for new planets and checking for any trouble. The outer rim was dangerous. Pirates liked to hide there. Sometimes alien ships came through too. "Captain," called Park Min-ho from his station. He was young but smart, the best tactical officer Lee had ever worked with. "I'm getting something strange on the long-range scanner." Lee walked over to look at his screen. Green dots showed the positions of stars and planets. But there was something else, a weak signal coming from far away. "What kind of signal?" Lee asked. "It's very weak," Park said. He touched some buttons to make it clearer. "But it looks like a distress call." Dr. Kim Soo-jin looked up from her science station. She was always interested when they found something new. "Can we hear what it says?" Park worked on his computer for a few minutes. Static filled the bridge. Then they heard a voice. It was speaking in broken galactic standard, the language most aliens use to talk to each other. "Please, anyone, help us. We are dying. The creche come every day. They take our people. We cannot fight. Please help." The voice sounded scared and tired. Lee felt something cold in her stomach. She had heard voices like this before during the war. "Where is it coming from?" she asked. Kim Soo-jin checked her instruments. "It's coming from an unknown system, about 3 days away if we go at full speed." "What do we know about this system?" Lee asked. Kim touched her screen and brought up a star map. "Not much. It has one big gas giant with many moons. The signal comes from the third moon." Park was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Captain, I've heard of the creche before. They're bad news. They capture other species and make them slaves." Lee had heard of them too. The creche empire was known throughout the galaxy as cruel and aggressive. They believed that strong species should rule over weak ones. "Did the voice say who they were?" Lee asked. Kim played the message again. This time they could hear more words. "We are the Valen. We have lived in peace for many years. But now the creche come. They want our technology. They want to make us slaves. Please, someone help us." "The Valen," Kim said thoughtfully. "I've read about them. They're plant eaters, very peaceful. They never fight wars." "That explains why. They can't defend themselves," Park said. Lee walked back to the captain's chair. She thought about what to do. They were supposed to stay in human space. Going to help unknown aliens was against orders. But the voice in the message sounded so desperate. "How many Valen are there?" she asked. Kim checked her computer. "From what I can find, maybe 50,000 on that moon. It might be all that's left of their species. 50,000 people, all of them in danger." Lee thought about her own family. They had died when pirates attacked the Mars colonies. No one had come to help them in time. "Captain," said Yoon Haeun, the ship's diplomatic officer. She had been quiet until now. "If the creche are attacking them, we might be their only hope." Lee looked at her crew. They all watched her, waiting for her decision. She knew what the safe choice was. Turn around and go back to human space. Report the signal to headquarters, and let someone else decide what to do. But Lee also knew what the right choice was. Set course for the Valen system, she said. Maximum speed. Yes, Captain, said the pilot. As the ship turned toward the unknown system, Park came over to Lee's chair. Captain, we don't know how many Kresh ships are there. We might be flying into a trap. Lee nodded. I know, but we're humans, Park. We come from Earth. Our planet tried to kill us every day for millions of years. Bad weather, dangerous animals, poisonous air, deadly diseases. But we survived. We got stronger. She looked out at the stars again. The galaxy calls us Deathworlders because our planet is so dangerous. Most aliens can't even breathe our air. But that's what makes us different. We can survive things that would kill other species. So you think we can help them? Park asked. I think we have to try, Lee said. That's what humans do. When someone calls for help, we answer. The ship moved through space toward the Valen system. Lee didn't know what they would find there. She didn't know if they could really help 50,000 aliens fight off the Kresh Empire, but she knew they had to try. In her quarters that night, Lee looked at an old picture of her family. Her husband and daughter had believed in helping others too. They had died defending innocent people on Mars. I hope I'm making the right choice, she whispered to the picture. The next morning, Kim came to the bridge with more information about the Valen system. I've been studying the signal more, she said. The Valen are amazing. They can grow buildings and technology from living plants. They've never hurt another species in their entire history. That's probably why the Kresh want them, Park said. Easy targets with useful technology. Lee stood up. How much longer until we reach them? 2 more days, said the pilot. Good. Park, I want you to study everything we know about Kresh tactics. Kim, learn everything you can about the Valen. We're going to need every advantage we can get. As the Tagak Dawn flew deeper into unknown space, Lee felt the weight of her decision. She was taking her crew into danger to save aliens they had never met. But she knew it was right. Humans were survivors, and survivors helped each other. The Tagak Dawn dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Valen system. What Lee saw on the main screen made her angry. 12 large Kresh warships circled the third moon like hungry sharks. The moon itself looked sick. Its green and blue surface was turning brown in many places. Ugly machines floated in the sky, pumping poison into the air. My God, whispered Kim Soo-jin. They're killing the whole moon. Park studied his tactical display. Those are atmospheric processors. They're changing the air to make it hard for the Valen to breathe. Lee watched in horror as small Kresh ships flew down to the surface. Through the scanner, she could see them landing near what looked like cities made of giant trees. But the trees were dying now. Can we contact the Valen? Lee asked. Yoon Ha-yoon, their diplomatic officer, worked at her station. I'm trying to find their communication frequency. After a few minutes, she nodded. I think I have something. The main screen changed to show the inside of what looked like a cave. But the walls were smooth and alive, like the inside of a plant. An alien face appeared on the screen. The alien was tall and thin, with green skin that looked like bark. Its eyes were large and sad. When it spoke, its voice was soft and musical. I am Elder Tilnara of the Valen, the alien said. Are you the ones who answered our call for help? We are, Lee said. I'm Captain Lee Ji-won of the human ship Tagak Dawn. We came as fast as we could. The elder's eyes showed hope for the first time. Humans. I have heard of your species. They say you come from a world of death and fire. Something like that, Lee said. Tell me what's happening down there. The elder's face became sad again. The creche came 6 months ago. At first, they just wanted to trade. But then they saw our biotechnology. They saw how we grow our cities and tools from living plants. They decided they wanted it all. The screen showed images of creche soldiers in heavy armor. They were much bigger than humans, with thick gray skin and sharp teeth. They carried weapons that shot blue energy beams. We tried to talk to them, the elder continued. But they don't listen. They say weak species must serve strong species. They capture our people and take them away. We don't know where. How many of you are left? Yoon asked gently. Maybe 40,000 on this moon. We hide in the deep root caves, but they find us. And now they poison our air. Soon we will all die. Lee felt the same anger she had felt during the Mars colony wars. Strong people hurting weak people just because they could. Elder, we want to help you, Lee said. But we need to know more. What weapons do the creche use? The elder touched something. Off-screen, new images appeared. Creche soldiers carried guns that shot energy beams. But they also had something worse. They have pain weapons, the elder said. They make a sound that hurts our minds. We cannot think or move when they use them. It is terrible. Kim leaned forward. Neural disruptors. They attack the nervous system. Lieutenant Colonel Bae Jae-hyun had been quiet until now. He was the commander of the ship's Marines. How many creche soldiers are on the surface? Thousands, the elder said. Maybe 10,000. They set up camps near our cities. They guard the prisoners they take. Bae looked at Lee. The numbers were bad. The Taeguk Dawn only had 200 Marines. There's something else, the elder said. The creche want our bioseeds. These are special plants that can change any world into a garden. With them, they could control how planets grow. They could make worlds that only they can live on. Lee understood now. The creche didn't just want slaves. They wanted power over life itself. Where are these bioseeds? She asked. Hidden in the deep caves. We will die before we give them to the creche. The communication suddenly filled with static. When it cleared, the elder looked scared. They found this cave. I must go. Please, if you can help us, hurry. The screen went dark. Lee turned to her crew. Report. What are we dealing with? Park spoke first. 12 creche warships. Each one is bigger than us. Maybe 50 fighters total. The surface has about 10,000 soldiers. Their weapons? Lee asked. Energy cannons on the ships, plasma rifles for the soldiers, and those neural disruptors for crowd control. Kim had been studying her science readings. Captain, I'm reading something strange. The gas giant has incredibly violent storms, lightning, radiation, crushing pressure. The creche ships stay far away from it. Smart of them, Bae said. Those conditions would crush most ships. Lee walked to the big window and looked at the gas giant. It was huge and angry, with red and orange storms swirling across its surface. Lightning bigger than Earth's continents flashed through the clouds. Most ships, she said quietly. But not all ships. She turned back to her crew. How many people did you say were still alive down there? About 40,000, Yoon answered. And how many can our ship carry? In an emergency? Maybe 5,000, said Won Tae-hyun, the chief engineer. The numbers didn't work. Even if they could beat 12 warships, They couldn't save everyone. Captain, Kim said suddenly, I'm getting more readings from the surface. The Valen cities aren't just built from plants. They're built like earth forests. Thick trees, underground root systems, lots of places to hide. Like jungles, Bay said, understanding. Terrain our people know how to fight in. Lee nodded. Earth had taught humans to fight in all kinds of dangerous places. Hot jungles, cold mountains, deep caves, burning deserts, places where most aliens couldn't survive. Here's what we're going to do, Lee said. We can't fight 12 ships head-on, but we don't have to. We just need to buy time and save as many Valen as we can. She pointed at the gas giant. That storm system is our cover, and that jungle surface is our battlefield. The Kresh have numbers and weapons, but we have something they don't. What's that? Park asked. Lee smiled grimly. We're from a death world. We know how to survive where others can't. She walked back to her captain's chair. 1, I need you to modify our hull for high-pressure operations. Bay, prepare your Marines for jungle warfare in toxic atmosphere. Kim, find us a way to communicate with the Valen without the Kresh hearing. And me? Park asked. You figure out how to use that gas giant to kill Kresh ships. As her crew went to work, Lee looked at the dying moon again. 40,000 lives hung in the balance. The odds were impossible, but humans had beaten impossible. Odds before, they were Deathworlders, and Deathworlders never gave up. Lee stood in the engineering section watching Won Tae-hyun work. The chief engineer was changing the ship's hull to handle the crushing pressure inside the gas giant. Sparks flew as he welded new support beams. How long until you're done? Lee asked. 6 hours, Won said without looking up. Maybe less if I skip the safety tests. Skip them, Lee said. We don't have time. In the Marine Bay, Bay Jae-hyun was preparing his soldiers for the mission. They wore special suits that could handle poisonous air and extreme heat. Each Marine carried weapons designed for close combat. In thick jungle. Remember, Bay told his troops, the Valen can't fight. They're counting on us to protect them. Don't let them down. Sergeant Major Oh Min-soo checked his equipment one more time. He was an old soldier who had fought in many wars. Sir, what about those neural disruptors? We'll deal with them when we meet them, Bay said. Earth taught us to adapt. That's what we'll do. On the bridge, Kim had found a way to talk to the Valen without the Kresh hearing. She used a special frequency that traveled through the planet's root systems. Elder Tilnara, she called softly. Can you hear me? The elder's voice came back weak but clear. Yes, human friend. We hear you. We're coming to help. But we need you to do something. Can your people hide in the deepest caves? Places where the air is bad and the pressure is high? The deep roots? But humans cannot survive there. The air will kill you. Kim smiled. Elder, we're from Earth. Bad air doesn't scare us. There was a long pause. Then the elder said, I begin to understand why the galaxy fears your species. Park had been studying the gas giant storms. Captain, I think I've found something. There's a pattern to the lightning. If we time it right, we can use the electrical discharges to hide our ship's energy signature. Good, Lee said. What about using the storms as weapons? The lightning bolts are bigger than our ship. If we could somehow direct them at the Kresh vessels. Work on it, Lee ordered. A few hours later, Won announced the ship was ready. She'll hold together in the gas giant's upper atmosphere. But, Captain, if we go too deep, even our hull won't save us. Understood, Lee said. Bay, are your Marines ready? Ready, Captain. We've got atmospheric suits and jungle gear. O's team will lead the rescue while my team creates a distraction. Lee nodded. Remember, our job isn't to win the war, it's to save as many Valen as possible and get out alive. The Taeguk Dawn moved toward the gas giant. The Kresh ships saw them coming and tried to intercept, but Lee had timed it perfectly. Just as the enemy ships got close, the human vessel disappeared into the gas giant's storms. The bridge shook as they entered the upper atmosphere. Lightning flashed all around them. The pressure readings climbed higher and higher. Hull stress at 60%, Juan reported. Keep going, Lee ordered. Through the thick clouds, they could see the Kresh ships trying to follow. But the alien vessels weren't built for this kind of environment. Their shields failed in the electrical storms. Their hulls cracked under the pressure. 3 Kresh ships turning back, Park reported. They can't handle the conditions. Perfect, Lee said. Take us around to the night side of the moon. We'll launch the Marines during the electrical storm. The drop pods launched from the Taeguk Dawn like seeds from a dying flower. Each pod carried 10 Marines in full combat gear. They fell through the poisonous atmosphere toward the jungle below. Minsu felt his pod shake as it hit the thick air. Through the small window, he could see the dying forest. The trees were huge, but many were brown and sick from the Kresh poison. 2 minutes to landing, his pilot announced. Checked his weapon one more time. His team's job was to reach the Valen hiding places and guide them to safety. Bay's team would attack the Kresh camps to keep them busy. The pods crashed through the jungle canopy and hit the ground hard. Kicked open the door and stepped out into the alien world. The air was thick and poisonous. His suit's filters worked overtime to keep him alive. The gravity was lighter than Earth's, which made moving easier. But the humidity was terrible. Like being inside a steam bath. Sound off, ordered through his radio. One by one, his Marines reported in. They had all landed safely. Through the dying trees, they could see the glow of Kresh camps in the distance. Alpha Team, head for the Valen Caves, commanded. Bravo Team with me. We're going to make some noise. Deep underground, Elder Tilnara felt the vibrations of the human landing. The young Valen healer Yin Essa was with him, tending to the wounded. The humans have arrived, the elder announced to the frightened Valen families. They come to take us to safety. But the deep roots, one Valen said, the air there will kill them. I don't think it will, Yin Essa said quietly. She had been studying human biology since their first contact. Their bodies are different from ours. They can survive in conditions that would destroy us. Above ground, O's team moved through the jungle like ghosts. The Kresh had cut paths through the forest, but the humans stayed off them. They moved through the thick underbrush where their earth-trained senses gave them every advantage. Contact, whispered one Marine. Kresh patrol, 50 meters ahead. Could see them through his scope. 6 Kresh soldiers in heavy armor carrying those neural disruptor weapons. They moved slowly, confident in their strength. Take them down quietly, ordered. The Marines had trained for this kind of fight since childhood. Earth's jungles had taught their ancestors to be silent hunters. In seconds, the Kresh patrol was dead without firing a shot. That's for Mars, whispered, remembering his first war. Meanwhile, Bay's team attacked a Kresh supply depot. Explosions lit up the night as human weapons destroyed alien equipment. The Kresh rushed to defend their supplies, pulling soldiers away from the Valen caves. In space, Lee kept the Taeguk Dawn hidden in the gas giant's storms. Every few minutes, She would emerge to fire at Kresh ships, then disappear back into the lightning. "It's working," Park reported. "The Kresh can't predict where we'll appear next." "How are the Marines doing?" Lee asked. Kim checked her communications. "O's team has reached the first cave system. They're bringing up Valen families now." Deep. In the root caves, O met Elder Tilnara for the first time. The old alien looked amazed that the human could breathe the toxic air and stand the crushing pressure. "Your species is truly remarkable," the elder said. "No wonder the galaxy calls you Deathworlders." "We prefer to call ourselves survivors," O replied. "How many people are down here?" "Nearly 8,000 in this cave system alone." O did quick math in his head. Getting 8,000 people to the surface would take hours, and they didn't have hours. "We need to move faster," he told his team. "Yanessa, can your people help carry the wounded?" The young Valen healer nodded. "We are not fighters, but we can help our own people." As the rescue operation continued, more Kresh reinforcements arrived on the surface. But every time they tried to enter the deep caves, the toxic air and crushing pressure drove them back. "Amazing," Yanessa said, as she watched the humans work without protection in air that would kill her in minutes. "How do you survive such conditions?" O smiled behind his helmet. "Lady, this is nothing compared to a summer day in the Amazon." Rainforest. Above them, Lee prepared for the next phase of her plan. The Marines had saved thousands of Valen, but they still had to get them off the planet. And the Kresh were getting angry. "Captain," Park warned, "more Kresh ships are arriving. I count 6 new vessels jumping into the system." Lee looked at the tactical display. 18 Kresh warships now surrounded the moon. Even with the gas giant's protection, the odds were getting worse. "Time to show them what Deathworlders can really do," she said. The Kresh Warmaster Velthok stared at his tactical display in anger. His fleet of 18 warships surrounded the moon, but somehow a single human vessel was making him look like a fool. "How can one ship hide from our entire fleet?" he roared at his officers. "They use the gas giant storms, Warmaster," his tactical officer replied nervously. "Our ships cannot follow them into those conditions." Velthok's eyes burned with rage. The Kresh had conquered dozens of worlds, but they had never faced an enemy like this. These humans fought like the storms themselves, unpredictable and deadly. On the Taeguk Dawn's bridge, Lee watched her enemy's movements. The Kresh ships were getting desperate. They had spread out around the moon, trying to cover every escape. "Root!" "Captain," Park said urgently, "the Kresh are preparing to bomb the surface. They're targeting the areas where our Marines are operating." Lee's blood went cold. If the Kresh used orbital bombardment, they would kill thousands of Valen civilians, and her Marines at the same time. How much power can you give me?" she asked her engineer. "Everything we've got, Captain. But if we push the engines too hard in these storms—" "Do it," Lee ordered. "Park, plot a course that brings us up right in the middle of their formation." "Captain?" "That's suicide," Park protested. "Maybe," Lee said, "but it's the only way to save our people on the ground." The Taeguk Dawn burst from the gas giant's atmosphere like a rocket. Lightning crackled around its hull as it climbed toward the Kresh fleet. The enemy ships were so surprised, they didn't fire for several seconds. When they did fire, Lee was ready. "Young Sung-ho, launch all fighters. Maximum attack speed." Commander, Young Sung-ho had been waiting for this moment. His fighter pilots were the best in human space, trained to fly in Earth's worst weather. The conditions around the gas giant were just another challenge. "Phoenix Squadron, follow me in," Young announced. Let's show these aliens how we do things. 20 human fighters screamed out of the Taeguk Dawn's launch bays. They flew straight into the crash formation, using the gas giant's radiation and electrical storms as cover. The crash tried to target them, but their sensors couldn't work properly in the electromagnetic chaos. Jung's pilots wove between lightning bolts and radiation clouds, striking at the enemy ships like angry wasps. "Direct hit on Crash Cruiser number 4, reported one pilot. "Number 7 is venting atmosphere," called another. But the Crash had more ships than the humans had fighters. Slowly, the alien vessels began to surround Jung's squadron. On the surface, Oh Min-soo heard the sounds of battle in space through his radio. His team had rescued over 3,000 Valen from the caves, but thousands more were still trapped. "Corporal, Nam Hyajin," he called to his medic. "How are the wounded?" Nam was treating a Valen child who had been hurt by Kresh weapons. "They'll live, Sergeant Major, but we need to get them to the ship's medical bay soon." Oh nodded. The rescue was taking too long. Every minute they stayed on the surface, more Kresh reinforcements arrived. Suddenly, his radio crackled with an emergency message from Bay's team. "Oh, we've got problems. The Kresh are bringing in heavy weapons, neural disruptors powerful enough to work through our suits." Oh felt his stomach drop. If the Kresh had upgraded their pain weapons, his Marines would be helpless. "All teams, fall back to the caves," he ordered. "We'll hold them there." But as his Marines retreated, something strange happened. Nam Hyejin was carrying a wounded Valen when a Kresh neural disruptor hit her. The weapon should have dropped her instantly with overwhelming pain. Instead, she just stumbled and kept running. "That's weird," she said over the radio. "That should have hurt a lot more." Oh realized what had happened. The neural disruptors were designed to attack Valen nervous systems. But human brains worked differently. The weapons still hurt, but they didn't disable humans completely. "All teams, the pain weapons aren't as effective on us," he announced. "We can fight through them." In space, Lee was fighting for her ship's life. The Taeguk Dawn twisted and rolled between Kresh energy beams, using every trick she had learned in 20 years of combat. "Hull damage on decks 4 and 7, Juan reported. "But we're still flying." "Good. Park, bring us around for another pass. Target their command ship." The massive Kresh flagship was 3 times the size of the Taeguk Dawn. Its weapons could destroy the human ship with one good hit, but Lee had an idea. "One, can you overload our fusion reactor?" she asked. Her engineer's face went pale. "Captain, that would destroy the ship." "Not destroy. Overload. Create an electromagnetic pulse big enough to disable their electronics." One thought for a moment. It might work, but we'd have to get very close, and there's a chance the reactor would explode instead of just overloading. E looked at the tactical display. Her fighters were outnumbered 10 to 1. Her Marines were trapped on the surface. The Valen were dying. "Do it," she ordered. "Captain," Park said quietly, "there might be another way. Look at the gas giant's magnetic field." On his screen, Lee could see lines of magnetic force flowing around the giant planet. The field was incredibly strong, much stronger than anything around Earth. If we could channel the gas giant's magnetic field through our ship's hull, we could create an electromagnetic pulse without destroying ourselves, Lee finished. "One, can we do that?" One studied the readings. "Maybe, but we'd have to fly right through the planet's magnetic pole. The radiation would be lethal to most species. But not to humans," Lee said with a grim smile. "Because we're Deathworlders." The Taeguk Dawn dove toward the gas giant's north pole. The magnetic field grew stronger and stronger. Radiation that would cook most aliens passed harmlessly through the ship's specially shielded hull. Magnetic field strength at maximum, Juan reported. Ready to discharge. Lee watched as the Kresh flagship moved into position. Now, the electromagnetic pulse erupted from the Taeguk Dawn like invisible lightning. It struck the Kresh flagship just as the alien ship was entering the gas giant's magnetosphere. The result was spectacular. Every electronic system on the flagship failed at once. Lights went out, weapons stopped working, life support shut down. The massive alien ship, crippled and helpless, began falling toward the gas giant's crushing depths. "My God," Park whispered, "we did it." But their victory came with a price. One Taehyun collapsed at his station. The radiation exposure from flying through the magnetic pole had been too much, even for a human. "Medical team to engineering," Lee called. But she could see from Juan's face that it was too late. With his dying breath, Juan smiled at his captain. "The reactor nos is stable. Ship will hold together." Lee felt tears in her eyes. Juan had saved them all, but he had paid the ultimate price. The other Kresh ships, seeing their flagship destroyed, began to retreat. They had never faced an enemy willing to fly through lethal radiation just to win a battle. "Captain," Young's voice came over the radio, "Kresh fleet is withdrawing. We won." But Lee knew the victory was incomplete. They still had to get the Valen off the surface and safely away from this system. "All fighters return to ship," she ordered. "Marines, prepare for emergency evacuation. We're getting everyone out of here." On the surface, O got the message that the space battle was over. His teams had rescued over 5,000 Valen, but many more were still in the deep caves. "How long do we have?" he asked. 6 hours, came Lee's reply. "Then we leave, with or without everyone." O looked at the Valen families around him. Children, elderly, wounded, all of them depending on humans they had never met before. "Then we'd better work fast," he said. As the rescue operation continued, healer Yin Essa worked alongside Nam Hyejin to treat the wounded. She watched in amazement as the human medic worked tirelessly, never stopping to rest. "Your people," Yin Essa said. "You risk everything for strangers." "Why?" Nam looked up from bandaging a Valen child's arm. "Because it's the right thing to do. Because someone has to stand up to bullies. Because that's what humans do." Yanessa thought about this. Perhaps that is why the galaxy fears you. Not because you are from a death world, but because you are willing to die for others. Nam smiled. "Maybe, but we prefer to live for others." As the hours passed, the rescue teams worked without rest. By the time Lee called for final evacuation, they had saved over 8,000 Valen lives. It wasn't everyone, but it was enough to ensure the species would survive. The Taeguk Dawn, battered but victorious, carried its precious cargo away from the dying moon. Behind them, the Kresh licked their wounds and wondered how a single human ship had defeated their entire fleet. The answer was simple. Deathworlders didn't just survive. They protected those who couldn't protect themselves. 3 days after the battle, Admiral Choi Young-jae arrived with a full human fleet. He expected to find wreckage and maybe some survivors. Instead, he found something that would change galactic history forever. The Taeguk Dawn floated in space, damaged but proud. Around it, 8,000 Valen refugees lived in temporary shelters built from their own biotechnology. The sight made the Admiral stop and stare. "Captain Lee," he said, when she came aboard his flagship. What exactly happened? Here, Lee looked tired but determined. We answered a distress call, sir. We saved who we could. You defeated an entire Kresh battle fleet with one ship, the Admiral said. The Galactic Council is calling it impossible. We had help, Lee replied. The gas giant's storms, the planet's environment, and most importantly, the Valen themselves, they never gave up hope. The Admiral walked to the window where he could see the refugee camps. Valen children played between the biodomes while their parents grew new homes from seeds. Human Marines shared their food with alien families. The Kresh are claiming this was an act of war, the Admiral said. Let them, Lee answered. They started it when they decided to commit genocide. Dr. Lim Jisoo, a xenosociologist who had come with the Admiral's fleet, was documenting everything. She had never seen anything like the cooperation between humans and Valen. This is extraordinary, she told Lee. Two species working together so naturally. It's like you've known each other for centuries. Elder Tilnara approached them, moving slowly but with dignity. The old Valen had aged years in the past few days, but his eyes were bright with hope. Admiral Choi, he said in careful galactic standard. Your people have given us a gift beyond price, not just our lives, but our future. What will you do now? The Admiral asked. Your homeworld is poisoned. It will take decades to heal. The Elder smiled. We will heal it. But first, we have something to offer your people, a token of our gratitude. He gestured to healer Yin Essa, who carried a small container made of living wood. Inside were dozens of seeds that glowed with soft green light. Bioseeds, the Elder explained. With these, you can turn any dead world into a garden, transform toxic air into breathable atmosphere, make deserts bloom with life. Admiral Choi stared at the seeds. He understood what they meant. With this technology, humanity could terraform hostile worlds in years instead of centuries. We can't accept this, he said finally. It's too valuable. It is exactly because it is valuable that we give it to you, Elder Tilnara replied. You risked everything to save us. Now we share everything with you. Dr. Lim was recording every word. She knew she was witnessing the birth of something new in galactic politics. Meanwhile, on the surface of the damaged moon, Sergeant Major O was helping the last Valen families evacuate their ruined cities. The trees were still dying from Kresh. Poison. But young Valen were already planting new seeds. Will this place ever be green again? Asked a Valen child. O knelt down to the child's level. I think so, little one. Your people know how to heal worlds. And if you need help, humans will be here. Corporal Nam Hyejin was working in the medical bay, treating both human and Valen wounded. She had made an incredible discovery during the battle. Captain, she reported to Lee, I've been studying the effects of Kresh neural disruptors on human blood. Our plasma contains proteins that can neutralize the weapons completely. What does that mean? Lee asked. It means we can make a medicine that protects other species from Kresh pain weapons. We can share immunity with our allies. Lee smiled. Another gift that would change the galaxy. 2 weeks later, representatives from across the galaxy gathered at a space station near the Valen system. The Galactic Council wanted to understand what had happened. They had never seen a rescue operation like this. Captain Lee stood before the assembled aliens. Many of them were species she had never seen before. Some looked like birds, others like walking plants, still others like living crystals. "The human delegation wishes to make a formal statement," announced the council speaker, a being that looked like a floating jellyfish. Lee stepped forward. "Honored council members, humans answered a distress call from the Valen. We did what any decent species should do. We helped. But you violated Kresh territorial claims," accused the Kresh representative, War Master Velthok himself. "You attacked our rightful expedition." Lee's eyes went cold. "You were committing genocide, enslaving an entire species, poisoning their world. That's not territory, that's murder." Murmurs ran through the assembled aliens. Many species had suffered under Kresh aggression, but none had ever fought back successfully. Elder Tilnara stood up slowly. "If I may speak for my people," he said, "the humans saved us when no one else would. They asked for nothing in return. They risked their lives for strangers. The Valen offer humanity a formal alliance," he continued. "We will share our biotechnology. They will provide protection for peaceful species. Together we can build something new." The jellyfish-like speaker floated closer to Lee. "And what do humans want from this alliance?" Lee thought about Wan Tae-hyun, who had died saving the ship, about her Marines who had risked everything in poisonous caves, about the Valen children who were alive because humans had answered their call. "We want to make sure this never happens again," she said. "We want to protect species that can't protect themselves. We want to prove that strength should serve peace, not destroy it." The council voted that day to recognize the Human-Valen alliance. More importantly, they condemned the Kresh attack as a war crime. For the first time in galactic history, a major military power faced real consequences for their actions. But the most important change happened quietly, away from the cameras and official statements. Other species began reaching out to humanity. Peaceful civilizations that had lived in fear of aggressive neighbors. Scientists who wanted to share knowledge. Artists who wanted to exchange culture. Dr. Lim documented it all. "What we're seeing is unprecedented," she told Lee. "The galaxy is dividing into two camps, those who use strength to take what they want, and those who use strength to protect what matters." 1 year later, Captain Lee stood on the bridge of a new ship. The Taeguk Dawn had been repaired and upgraded with Valen biotechnology. Living vines grew through the corridors, cleaning the air and providing fresh food. The ship could now heal itself from damage. Park Min-ho was now her first officer. Bae Jae-hyun commanded a battalion of Marines. Kim Soo-jin led a team of scientists studying alien biology. Even Oh Min-soo had been promoted, training new soldiers in hostile environment operations. "Captain," Park reported, "we're receiving another distress call. The Zalani Republic is under attack by Kresh forces." Lee smiled. The Zalani were a peaceful species of mathematicians who had joined the Alliance 6 months ago. Their homeworld was being threatened by Kresh revenge attacks. "Set course for the Zalani system," she ordered. "Maximum speed." "Should we wait for reinforcements?" Park asked. Lee looked out at the stars. "The Zalani called for help. We answer." But this time, they weren't alone. 12 other ships followed the Taeguk Dawn into hyperspace. Human vessels, Valen bioships, and vessels from 6 other species that had joined the Alliance. The age of bullies ruling the galaxy was ending. The age of protectors was beginning. Elder Tilnara, now serving as the Alliance's first ambassador, sent a message to all peaceful species in the galaxy. "For too long, we have lived in fear of those who would hurt us, but now there is hope. There are those who will stand between the innocent and those who would harm them. They call themselves Deathworlders. We call them friends. The message spread across the galaxy. On 1,000 worlds, beings who had given up hope began to believe again. The strong could protect the weak. Peace was possible. And somewhere in human space, children learned a new lesson in their history classes. They learned that strength, without compassion, was worthless. That the greatest warriors were those who fought not for conquest, but for protection. They learned that being from a death world didn't make you a monster. It made you a guardian. Captain Lee Ji-wan had answered one distress call. In doing so, she had changed the course of galactic civilization forever. The Valen lived, the Alliance grew, and across the stars, whenever someone cried for help, Deathworlders answered. History was made not with conquest or destruction, but with a simple idea, that the strong should protect the weak, and that no one should face darkness alone. The galaxy would never be the same.